game. Arkansas Razorbacks, getting back home in conference play. They wrap up a 3-game homestand in league play. We know that Big 12 SEC challenge, the last one ever, was sandwiched in there on Saturday. But the Arkansas Razorbacks take care of business after a 1-5 league start, 3 wins in a row, all by double digits in league play at home. Started with Ole Miss, then LSU by 20. Ole Miss by 12. Arkansas beats Texas A&M, the best of those 3 teams, and one of the tied for second in the league at 7-1 in league play coming in. But the Razorbacks win 81-70 at Bud Walton Arena tonight in a game that I thought was really a must-win. I thought the Ole Miss game was a must-win when Arkansas started this homestand, because if you can't beat the worst team in the league, then and after a 1-5 start, then you belong in the bottom down there somewhere. And Arkansas turns around after that Ole Miss win and beats LSU, another bottom feeder. Those teams have just been struggling, Ole Miss and LSU. A&M was a different story. Not only was A&M 7-1 in league play coming into tonight, but the Aggies were 3-1 on the road. Their last road game in league play, last week they go on the road and get a double-digit win at a ranked Auburn team. We know how tough it is to play there. Auburn had won, somewhere near 30 home games in a row, somewhere in that ballpark, and A&M gets that upset. So this was a big win for many reasons. A&M's a team that's on the wrong side of the bubble coming into tonight. Arkansas is moving closer and closer to that bubble. Projected, I think now around 10 seedish with a lot of these bracketologies. But this is a good win for Arkansas. It's a home win. It's not a quad one for a home game. The quad, when you look at the quad system, the opponent has to be ranked 30 or better in net. A&M's just outside the top 40 coming into this game. Love how hard this team plays. In a quick turnaround too, and this is a team that's been banged up. Eric Musselman talked about, look, if you're a Razorback fan, it's really hard to have moral victories. But when I look back at Missouri on the road, those back-to-back games against Ole Miss and LSU that you won by double digits, I just said it. You look at Baylor on the road, a ranked team that's tough to beat in its house, and we know how good Baylor's been as a program of late. And then you pick up this win. So in these last 5 games, Arkansas's had second half leads. You were up 10 with under 5 minutes at Missouri. I mentioned LSU and Ole Miss. I'm going to bring it up one more time. Double-digit wins. You were in command for most of those games, from really from start to finish. And then at Baylor, you had an 8-point lead in the second half. And so I know that it's talking moral victories, but sometimes when you're still stumbling and strumbling and struggling a little bit, you start to see some shifts and things that are positive. The biggest thing for this Razorback team not being able to get over the hump has really been, when you look back, I tweeted about it the other night and talked about it forever after the last game, is that Arkansas is just getting destroyed in second half at the free throw line. And it started to trend that way a little bit through the first part, the third. Start of the second half to the 10-minute marker. So somewhere in there, A&M had a +1 advantage at the free throw line at halftime, almost a mirror of what's happened in those last 4 losses, only to have a +11 advantage about midway point there in the second half. And then something changed. And look, this Arkansas team fouls sometimes, the turnovers and some of the fouls. But again, this is an attacking Arkansas team. Nothing changes there. It was that way again tonight. But Arkansas started to get some whistles, and it's on its end. And of course, when you're playing with a 2 or 3 possession as it gets late, I noticed A&M really decided to start fouling with over a minute to play. I thought that was a little odd that they didn't play the clock a little bit, because they weren't that far down, but they didn't. They chose to foul. So Arkansas kind of came back in that free throw department in the last couple of minutes, but still, Arkansas ends up shooting 28 free throws a night. The Aggies were at 24 free throws when Arkansas had still only attempted 13. So Arkansas, basically, I think, I go back and look at the math and check the play-by-play, I think Arkansas took the last 15 free throws in this game or something like that. And at home, in a game where both teams are physical, this was an elite defense coming in for A&M. Elite offensive rebounding team. We saw that tonight. A&M came in averaging 12 offensive rebounds a game. The Aggies double that up tonight, 24 offensive rebounds. Arkansas gets 13. But guess what? We talk about this all the time. What did you do on the scoreboard with that? A&M was only +4 in second chance points. So Arkansas took its 13 turnovers and scored 15 points. Arkansas's 13 offensive rebounds and scored 15 points. A&M's 24 offensive rebounds equated to 19. So only a +4 cushion there. Arkansas shot 50% for the second straight game. It was a little bit better than 50% against Baylor on the road. Tonight they were right at 50 against a team that is elite defensively. A&M came in only giving up 13 two-point field goals per game. Per game, that can be a half, but per game, 13. Arkansas ends up 28 of 56% shooting the ball, outstanding 50% against a defense like that. This was an A&M team that not very good defending the three line, but that's not Arkansas' strength, giving up over 8 a game. Arkansas hit 6 of 18 for the second consecutive game. There's a lot of that Baylor game. The shooting percentage for Arkansas. Defensively, just like holding Baylor, who was a really good offensive team, at 34% field goals, they matched that tonight, 34 for A&M. Not as good offensively, but still, for a team that's, took 20 more shots than you because of all those offensive rebounds, Arkansas did a good job not only defending the first time, but they defended pretty well on most of those second chances. A&M converted some. Again, Arkansas did a good job. When you look at the rate of conversion off offensive totals, Arkansas hung right there. Both teams with 38 points in the paint. Arkansas had the overall rebounding advantage for the longest time in this game. A&M ends up +6, 46-40. So they missed their own missed shot. They rebounded their own missed shots and of course got on the glass and rebound Arkansas's. But Arkansas did a great job, again, shooting from the field. You look at Devo Davis knocking down 4 of those 6 threes. All of a sudden this guy, we can look at Devo and some of the decision making. Ricky, Anthony Black, each of those guys had 4 turnovers tonight. That was a killer to help A&M get back in the game late. Arkansas was up 13, 66-53. A&M goes on an 11-2 run, aided a lot by some turnovers and missed layups. There was a couple of missed layups in there, and so they got within 4. But when you look at the last 4 minutes of this game, this is where opposition's been living at the free throw line and figuring out how to win. And at the end of games, and Arkansas struggled. And this was a totally different story tonight. In the last 4 minutes, Arkansas holds A&M after they got within 4, the Aggies. Arkansas holds A&M to 2 of 14 field goal shooting in the last 4 minutes or so. 3 of those missed field goals were blocks, 2 by Mikel Mitchell, 1 by Ricky Council. Arkansas forced a turnover in there. Both makes, by the way, for A&M were 3-pointers. So they got 6 points. Arkansas scored 13. They were up 4, 13-6 run to close the game. That's your 11-point margin. Devo does what Devo does at the end of games with that exclamation mark at the rim. But that technically gives Arkansas back-to-back double-digit margin victories at home in SEC play. So as much as this team is struggling, it just seems like they can't fully get over the hump. Put the Big 12 SEC Challenge behind you. Arkansas is now 4-5 in league play. We now officially start second half of league play going on the road when we look at all SEC teams. But Arkansas goes on the road for back-to-back games. But the first is at South Carolina on Saturday. That is a manageable, winnable game for Arkansas. This is not a strong South Carolina team. It hasn't been for a few years now. Each season's different, but this is a team that Arkansas can go pick up its first road win of the season, and then you're really in business at that point. But Arkansas is now 15-7 overall, 4-5, and the reason I think this was must win is because you needed another quality win to begin with. You don't have a whole lot. You've got your only quad one against San Diego State way back in late November in the Maui Invitational. That it still counts. Oklahoma was a quad one win for a while. The Sooners, even though they blew Alabama, they're on the outside of that top 50 right now. So as long as they're getting close to it. That's a quad 2 win. It's still a quality win. Beat Missouri at home a few weeks ago. Quad 2 win. That's quality. This is a quad 2 win. A&M will have to crack the top 30 to become a Q1. It doesn't matter. You needed this win, must win, to get another quality win, protect home court. You've only got the one blemish. Arkansas is 11-1 now at home. Bama's the exception. And then you're now got a fighting chance to get into not only the middle of league play in the next couple of games in terms of your record at 4-5, breaking even and maybe surpassing that soon. So you may not challenge for a title again this year, but you want to build on it like Arkansas's done every year. Go back 2 years ago, not just last year, but 2 years ago. The Razorbacks were 2-4 in league play. They started winning league games at home, turned that Auburn game at home around. They were down 18 in the first half, came back and won that. So that got them to 3-4. But then they had to step out of conference, go on the road. They played Oklahoma State and lost a close game. A game I think Arkansas might have had a chance to tie it. It was either overtime or chance to send it to overtime on the last possession, and they didn't get it done. But either way, they lost that game, but then got right back into league play and marched on. And so they ended up winning 11 straight league games with that Big 12 SEC Challenge loss in the middle, not in the middle, but in between the first few wins of that run. And then they won their first SEC tournament game. So 12 total. That was a school record since Arkansas has been in the SEC. So I'm not saying this team's going to do that. But I am the 12 SEC Challenge over, done. Would have been a great win on the resume. Quad one, it's out. Arkansas is starting to take care of business in the SEC. We know the big challenge now is what are they going to do on the road? They're 0-5. We're going to talk about what's upcoming there, because after Carolina, you go to Kentucky. The Wildcats have been playing much, much more like we thought they would coming into the season. After they had their own struggles, they didn't fall quite as hard as Arkansas did, but it's relatively close, and they're playing well. So Arkansas is going to have its work cut out for it, because we know it's not a great road team. But I think tonight, again, I was paying attention to the fouls and the whistles and the free throws, because we know Arkansas is a turnover machine. That was ugly tonight. -9, 17-8, 16-8 in points off turnover. So, that was a big advantage for A&M. That's what kept A&M in it. I thought for a while that the foul calling and the free throws were going to also aid in that, and it just didn't happen. That it kind of evened itself out, and Arkansas actually surged in the last minute and a half or so, because A&M was starting to foul early to stop the clock and try to hope Arkansas missed, and Arkansas did. Arkansas didn't shoot well from the line at the end, but what matters is that they didn't get outshot at the free throw line. And look, there's something else we need to talk about. A&M is elite in free throw shooting, second in the country in made per game, third in attempts, 25 attempts per game. So they almost got there. They were 24, but 74.5% from the foul line. Tonight, A&M goes 14 of 24. That's not good. I don't know if that help matters or not, but my screen froze. So I lost you, or you lost me. I don't know, but here we are. We're back. But we're talking about, what Arkansas was able to accomplish tonight. And I thought that this was probably the second must win of the season. I know I said that earlier, but welcome to Hogvillenet YouTube Live. We're doing our post game. We're running through everything. I think, we haven't really gone into much about individual players. We need to do that, because big salute to the Mitchell twins. They both got to start tonight. They've been starting together at times recently. We know Mikkel hasn't been in the lineup as much as Makai when you look at the arc of the season, but lately he's been a factor. He missed a game due to that ankle injury. Musselman has lauded him and others like Anthony Black and Devo and Jordan, some guys playing through injuries and being physical or dealing with their physical issues to come in and play their own physical brand and battle. And I thought we saw that from Mikkel tonight. Birthday boys, the twins, the Mitchell twins, and they started together. But look at the game Mikkel had. We're going to go through different players here, but Mikkel with the 9 points, all right, 13 rebounds, 7 blocks. Those are season highs at Arkansas. He had a steal in there too, but he shot. He was efficient. 4 of 8. I think he missed. He and his brother each missed at least one chippy, and maybe turned down some layups that were there to pass out. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I'm not going to nitpick, man. These guys, Mikkel was lights out. We talked about Arkansas's turnovers and how ugly that is and how it's been for most of the conference season. But Arkansas kind of, offset that with the block party. 13 blocks tonight. I mean, that's a big number. Makai didn't played about half the time as Mikkel did, but he had 3 blocks of his own in 15 minutes. Arkansas's bench tonight outscored A&M's bench 17-0. Arkansas doesn't always win the bench war and probably typically doesn't, but to go 17-0 there, and we know Jalen Graham came off the bench and had 5 quick points in that first half. He was 2 of 2 from the field, made one of his 2 free throws after going 0 for 4 at Baylor. But he didn't get a rebound tonight, and he had a couple of turnovers, and I wasn't crazy about his minutes other than the offensive end when Arkansas was kind of building a lead. Arkansas led by 10. There in the first half and ended up leading by 8 at halftime. Arkansas scores the first 4 points to start that second half to go up 12, and then A&M, boom, 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 gets right back in it. It's a two-possession game. A&M got within 6, 5, so they got it down to two possessions a few times there, but they were never able to get all the way back and get it within a one-possession game. And I thought Arkansas did a good job of just finding ways to build it just back and keep it at no worse than a two-possession deal in the second half. At least I don't remember a time where A&M got that close, but they did get it was still a two-possession game when they cut it to 68-64 at the 4:10 mark. I wanted to look at that because I was trying to remember. It was a 4-point cushion. So technically still two possessions, but that's as close as it got. And remember, I said Arkansas, from that point on, held A&M to 2 of 14 from the field. McKell had 2 of his blocks in that stretch. Ricky Council had 1, but Arkansas also forced a turnover, and the Hogs did enough on the offensive end. How about Devo Davis with 19 points tonight? Like I said earlier, 4 of the Hogs' 6 makes from 3. And I thought, one of the first one he hit was from 30 feet, and it broke a 10-all tie. Arkansas went on a little run and took a little lead there, 17-12, but it was 10-all. But that 30-footer, it was close to 30 feet if it wasn't, 28 to 30 feet. He had one that hit the front of the rim in the second half and bounced up and dropped through. I think it hit the rim, backboard, and then came back in. And then he had a couple others that he stroked. So, Devo Davis has continued to improve as a three-point shooter for Arkansas. And then I think another thing with Anthony Black tonight, he's had several games lately, 8 assists, 7 assists. Tonight, another 7-assist game for him. So he continues to kind of increase his average on in the assists, which tells me Arkansas is figuring some things out on what works and chemistry between guys. And it certainly helps when some of your routine perimeter passes. I know he had one cross-court pass to Devo in the corner, which led to one of his threes. And so when other guys are Arkansas starting to shoot better from 3, they're not a good three-point shooting team yet, but they're much better when you look collectively at several games here. So it makes it easier for your facilitator when he's making a good pass to an open guy from 3, and he's knocking it down. How many games have we seen where Arkansas hit 2, 1, 3, maybe 3 threes, maybe 4 would be a heavy night. And lately they've been doing better than that. So, it's good to see Anthony Black with those 7 assists. We look at Jordan Walsh playing off the bench tonight. He's been mostly a starter for this team, but 12 big points, 7 rebounds. I thought some of his plays were really big in crucial moments when it looked like A&M might be surging, and then he would go get a big basket, a big putback, or an and one. He shot free throws well when he got opportunities. I think he made his first 3. I don't know if he may have gone 1 of 2 on another trip, but I know he made his first 3. One of those was an and one that he completed, but I thought he had some big buckets. I thought the Anthony Black up and under where he got the and one opportunity in the second half, that was a big one. So those guys with AB's 11 points, Jordan Walsh's 12, Ricky Council with 19 points tonight. He just had 25 against Baylor, and he really had his pull-up game cooking in that first half. I was really pleased with what he was doing offensively on his pull-up game. There are still times he's using the ball fake a lot more before getting into his stuff. There's still a lot of crossover work and one-on-one. But again, I'm pleased. The other thing you got to be pleased with as just someone who likes basketball, this is back-to-back games. We talk about Arkansas being 50% or better shooting it, but they've had 16 assists in each of the last 2 games. And that tells you that guys are sharing it and getting it to guys in scoring position. And I can't, go into enough the free throw disparities. I know I wore that out the last time, but I think it's a big deal. Arkansas is always almost break even at halftime, and the free throw attempts and the fouls seem a little the same. The second half is where it has been getting really lopsided. Not so much tonight. It kind of started that way, and then I thought Arkansas kind of caught up in that department, or was catching up until A&M was choosing to foul with over a minute left, and so Arkansas ends up winning that. We didn't talk about fast break, and this is another thing where I think the Razorbacks. I thought this was going to be an elite transition team this year. It really hasn't been. But tonight, plus 11, they more than double up A&M, 21-10. And so Arkansas did a good job not only in transition defense. This is really a game where A&M, other than doubling up its own offensive rebound average, it wasn't superior in winning second chance points with all those plus 11 on the offensive glass, but only plus 4 at second chance points. And though, even though they got to the free throw line, shot one less than the season average, they are a 74.5% free throw shooting team and make under 60%, 58.3. So I thought A&M in many facets just got out executed and outplayed tonight by Arkansas. And I thought the same thing about Baylor. I thought Arkansas was a better team. I thought they, other than the free throws, which ended up being the difference in that game, tonight that didn't happen. And again, I start looking at, even in some of the losses, going back to Missouri and Baylor, Arkansas being the better team, and in my opinion, in those games, in more aspects of what impacts winning and losing than the opposition. And so if Arkansas can just find ways to stay competitive in the free throw game, whether it's shooting at a really high clip to offset a bigger difference in the attempts, or win the attempts and stay close enough in the conversion part, I think the rest of it, Arkansas has moved the needle now. Even with all the turnovers and some of the stuff we see that's not great, I think Arkansas, and we've talked about how this team struggles offensively. Their defense has gotten better. I think they're playing some of their best defensive basketball, even going back to non-conference for several games now. But I think their offense has come along a little bit. There's some stuff that's still problematic. We know they're not a great free throw shooting team when they do get there. Some games they don't get many attempts for whatever reason. The way they play, they should. They're not going to, they're not going to be consistently great shooting the three. But again, the assist numbers are proving it out lately. The field goal percentage against two really good teams. Baylor not as good defensively, but a superior offensive team. And Arkansas did more than hold its own there on the road. And then tonight against a stout, I mean, you're talking about a top 25 defense inside the arc for A&M, and Arkansas shoots 50%. And Arkansas did just enough, scoring 2 more field goals on 20 less attempts than A&M. So it tells you how good the defense was, how efficient the offense was for the Razorbacks. But it also tells you winning the three-point contest, we'll call it 6 of 18, 33.3%. A&M was 4 of 12, also 33.3, but Arkansas gets 2 more in that department. And so anytime the Razorbacks can win three-point shooting, free throw shooting, and then have a huge disparity in its own efficiency scoring the ball compared to its opponent, this team's got a great chance to win. Ricky Council dunk at the end was ridiculous. You're talking about in the second half, I guess his reverse dunk. That's in transition. That was Arkansas's only field goal in that 11-2 run. There was a stretch in the second half where he was making poor decisions with the ball. AB was and Devo was. And that's the Achilles heel right now for this team, other than the free throw and foul disparities. To me, the other biggest thing on a consistent basis is just the turnovers. So many self-inflicted, as Musman said. It's not about what the defense is doing. It's about what Arkansas does to itself. And again, it sounds like I'm discrediting what the opposition's throwing at Arkansas. I mean, this is an A&M team that trapped. You saw it press, and the pressure is interesting. A&M tries to keep the pace, dictate pace, but their pressure is helps effectuate that. Even if you have to pass quickly to get in half court, there's reasons they do that. But for Arkansas to score 81 points, this team, that's 15 more than A&M was giving up. It tells you again how efficient Arkansas was. And it also tells you that no matter what A&M thought would work, Eric Musman and his team were just better. And that's it. Thoughts on Devo's dunk at the end? Seems like I missed the last part of that. Well, Devo, he's done that before with Auburn last year. He's done it more than even that time. But the Auburn one's the famous one, I guess, because that was the number one team in the country, and they rushed the court. And, that wasn't the scene tonight. Inclement weather in Northwest Arkansas. I want to talk a little bit about Nick Smith Jr., because if you watched the telecast tonight and you weren't at the game, then you heard Jimmy Dykes talking more about his conversations with Nick Smith Jr. now 2 weeks in a row, and that he's still saying the same thing. The last time we did this, I talked about Fran Fraschilla in the last telecast for the Baylor game, talking about he knew Nick was back with the team and in school, but didn't see him returning. And I've been saying for a while, that's his goal and that's what he's working toward. I don't have a huge update here other than what Jimmy's been talking about is in line with what I was told weeks and weeks ago when I told you he was coming back, as a time frame for a possibility for a return. The only other little thing I will give you is that his process that he's on right now escalated a little bit starting on Monday of this week. I'm not trying to telegraph anything about what's going on at practice or anything like that. That's for Eric Musselman to talk about. That's not for me to talk about. I will just tell you that the process that Nick is in escalated in a way, meaning escalated in a way toward. There's a little nugget for you, but so we'll see what happens. This is we've always said I've get to 100% to see him again. He's working towards that. We should know by now. We should have the sense to know by now. There's no way he's anywhere near this campus, this team, in school. Stuff I've said for weeks. There's no way in the world he's near any of this if he's done and getting ready for the NBA draft. That's in June. I mean, that's just not the plan. The plan is for him to be with this team and play with this team again. And so we'll see what happens. And I know folks are tired of hearing about it, but you ought to see some encouragement here because this team's playing better basketball. Despite a couple of these losses, this is not the Vanderbilt game where Arkansas buckled defensively in the second half and basically got completely out of character and just laid down against an average team. This is not the team that folded in the last few minutes and had some big assignment busts at home against a really good Alabama team. Arkansas was down 2 points with 5 minutes to go and had several lapses and ended up, Bama ended up winning by double digits, but that was not a blowout. That was a tight game until the end. But this Arkansas team, I think, is ratcheted back up on defense. I think it really has. I think if you go back and look at it, that proves out, despite a couple of those losses. Again, Missouri and Baylor, we could easily be talking about a 5 consecutive win run here for Arkansas. I know that's not the case. I'm not trying to gloss over glaring issues. This is a team that went from top 10 and a projected 3 or 4 seed. Now we're talking bubbles and, still on the wrong side of the standings in the SEC, but they're building on it and they're playing better basketball. And I think that's evident. I'm not trying to preach or tell anybody how to think, but it's what I see, and again, I'm not going to blame officials for fixing games or, favoring one team or whatever. I just think because of Arkansas's youth, there is a lot of fouls there, but by the way that they play, the style they play, I feel like they've been robbed of some whistles too in second halves, and I think that's bigger than anything that's led to some of these losses. I really do. So we're going to not spend any more time on that. I hope the Nick Smith Jr. situation does resolve sooner rather than later as Arkansas now moves into the second half of league play, because as important as all sections of your season are, and when they look at your body of work and a resume, they're not going to necessarily favor how you finish the last 10 games over your things you did in your full body of work. But it says a lot to your confidence and ability to close out games and finish games and get over the hump to win your first road game and maybe pick up some more. Arkansas is going to have to win road games to have any resemblance of what they've done the last 2 seasons, back-to-back Elite Eight seasons. And so getting a Nick Smith Jr. not only helps that because of his versatility, but it also gives other teams problems dealing with Arkansas. And I think it impacts how you defend Arkansas, and it makes things harder on the opposition. So Arkansas could be clicking, and it'd be twofold because now you've got your opponent even more on their heels based on just what you bring to the floor, game in and game out, before you have to actually go out there and prove it. They have to fix the turnovers and sloppiness if they hope to make a run. I think they can make a run. I think they can make a run even with some turnover issues. They just can't get blown out in 2 main categories. Like tonight they got blown out on the offensive glass. But at the end of the day, how did that translate into points? Because we know one team's got to have more points than the other to win a game. And it was only a 4 margin. So they didn't get really blown out there. The turnover battle, they pretty much got blown out when you look at it from a scoring standpoint off of that. But they more than doubled their opponent in transition points. So they won that. So I think points in the paint were even at 38 all. Rebounding overall was fairly even, +6 for A&M, but Arkansas really led most of the game, and that was kind of toward the end. But so again, I'm going to go back to it. Even with turnovers, I think Arkansas can survive that. Now you're right. If it's every game where they're getting buried in turnovers, there'll be some games where there's other assets and facets of the game that they might be behind and not winning, and that might be the difference. So to call this, even with the Nick Smith, the Final Four team, they're going to have to get better. I don't know how much better they can get though. This deep into it, this far into the season, how much better can this team really get taking care of the basketball? Because to me, I see a lot of the same self-inflicted wounds. We're now 22 games in. There's 9 more to go in the regular season. That's you're more than a third of the way in, or excuse me, 2/3 of the way in, and so before postseason. So how much better can they get? I I don't know because they've been not good against inferior competition. This was a good team though. Again, I'm going to go back to it. A&M 7-1 in league play coming into tonight. 3-1 on the road. Just came off their last road game in league play was a double-digit win at Auburn, a team that doesn't lose at home, hadn't lost whatever two parts of 2+ seasons until the other night. So this was a confident team. You always have to throw out what the Aggies do in non-conference because they're not very good in non-conference typically. 3, 4, 5 losses. Then they get into league play and they start to beat teams, good teams. So that's a disappointment. I don't know what the fans over there, how much they care about basketball and what they think of Buzz Williams. He is a good coach, but I would want some explaining if I was a fan base about all the non-conference losses where you're always playing from behind once you get into league play, no matter how good you do and how well you play. This is a team that's on the wrong side of the bubble with a 7-2 record in a good SEC. So, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the Aggies. When you look at Wade, the sophomore guard, last year Arkansas went 1-2 against the Aggies. They played 3 times, rubber match in the SEC tournament. We know what happened there. Aggies won that, failed to get to the NCAA. But Wade Taylor last year, when he was a freshman, averaged 15 points a game in those 3 games against the Hogs, including 25 that he scored in Fayetteville, knocking down threes. Big game for him as a freshman. And that game went to overtime. That was the one game Arkansas ended up winning out of the 3, and it had to go to overtime. But Wade has a confidence against Arkansas. And you saw some of his craftiness tonight. And we've seen where no matter, I've said it, Arkansas's defense has steadily gotten consistently good again. But we do see smaller guards with skill and savvy. Once they get underneath one of the bigger guards like an Anthony Black or Ricky Council or even Devo, when they get past them, they know how to use their bodies to shield them off, bump off of them, draw fouls, and they're good. They're crafty. I look at Sears at Alabama did that. The guard, his name escapes me, at Vanderbilt that went for 20+ was doing it. Then you had Jordan Wright for Vanderbilt that scored like 13 points in a 15-0 run that was doing it. A bigger guard, but still using his frame and figuring out how to really punish Arkansas. So there's still some of that. And we saw Taylor have some success. We saw the 2 bigs, Marble and Coleman, just banging that glass. And you understand why A&M fouls a lot because they go. They battle for rebounds. They're going after those offensive rebounds. So you're going to pick up fouls going to war like that. So we saw some of that tonight. And then, I thought Dexter Dennis, who was Ricky Council's teammate last year at Wichita State, I talked about this. I wrote about it and tweeted about it last year when Arkansas was recruiting Ricky. They were also recruiting Dexter Dennis. Eric Musselman once those guys were in the portal, he traveled to Wichita, didn't just meet with Ricky. He met with Dexter Dennis as well. He met with both of those guys, was recruiting both of them for that last spot that Arkansas was going to free up out of the portal after getting all 4 of their bigs right after the season ended. And so that delay, that took a little time to get there, but they went after Dexter Dennis. And so they got Ricky Council. I think obviously Ricky got the best of it tonight, his 19 points. I thought, again, I talked about his mid-range game, the dunk. We talked a little bit about that. He knocks down that rose up, knocked down that early corner 3. I think that was Arkansas's first make from 3. But back-to-back games now, 25 the previous game, 19 tonight. So this is the Ricky Council we've seen before in non-conference where he's, putting up nearly a 20-piece and consistently in back-to-back games. He's been a little sporadic, one on night, maybe an off night, but back-to-back games offensively to see that, I think helps this Arkansas team as well because you want him to now take it back on the road. You want him and other guys to step up offensively when you go to South Carolina. I think this could very well be Arkansas's first win of the season on the road. They're 0-5. All of those are in league play. One of the feathers in Arkansas's resume cap right now is the 3-1 neutral, the 3-1 neutral record. When you're talking about San Diego State, yeah, Louisville's not a quality win, but you won it away from home. You lost to Creighton at another crazy game that went to the wire, but you beat Oklahoma in a neutral site. And so if you start picking up and cobbling together some road wins here at the end of the season, your away from home resume might be just okay. I mean, it might be fine. And obviously you want some road wins in there, not just the neutral site. And I think Arkansas can pick up some steam there. I think we go from where I thought Ole Miss and now this game were the two biggest games of the year. South Carolina, in a sense, is that because you got to get on the board on the road. Uh, I miss that. Somebody's healthier than Black right now. I thought, again, for a guy like McKell that was in a boot and missed a game last week, what a performance tonight. 9 points, 13 rebounds, 7 blocks, had a steal. In that late stretch in the game where A&M was trying to get to the basket, so many times we see the whistles blowing tonight. Uh, Master class by the Mitchell twins. Yeah. Yeah, master class. What else can you phrase it? I mean, combined, they had 10 of Arkansas's 13 blocks. Um, that's a lot. That's a lot. McKell was 7, 13 rebounds, but he was an enforcer, and I thought some of the whistles maybe he was straight up, but I think he. Your thoughts on Pinion lately, and do you see him having a role down the stretch? I've always said that I think Opinion's a guy you can use in situations where nothing's working. The Arkansas had to turn to him against Missouri, and even the first half against Ole Miss. And he turned those games around. He career highs in both of those. So I think that can still be on the table for a guy like him. We've seen other guys now stepping up. Devo's starting to step up and knock down some threes. I think he's had a few games where he's knocked down threes, um, but that wasn't there for him tonight. But again, we'll see Joseph Pinion help this team. I thought Jalen Graham, again, he gave Arkansas some offense a little bit there in the stretch in that first half when Arkansas was building on that lead. I understand why Dunning isn't getting any minutes. His upside, yeah, I think Dunning can be a really good player for Eric Musselman in his program. He's a culture fit. They love him. He's a guy that got some opportunities when they were in Europe. I know it was forever ago, but he did well. He was in the rotation. If you want to look at that rotation at that time, but the one thing about Dunning is he plays his skill set is in the same realm of not quite in the same realm of a Jordan Walsh who shoots a little better than him, even though Jordan hasn't been consistent. And when you look at their size and the positional value that they bring, it's very similar. And then you've got Ricky Council on the wing at 6'6". You got Anthony Black 6'7". Even though he plays a different position, you've got guys of similar frame and size, and so you've got to make choices. How many guards do you want on the floor? How many bigs with Trevin and your most versatile guy? Where can you find more versatility and sticking on the floor, especially offensively? Because with Nick out, Trevin out, it really shrinks down Arkansas's, in my opinion, it shrinks down Arkansas's versatility on offense. They're really a 2-level team. They're still not a 3-level team. The 3-point shooting's better, but it's not a 3-level. There's not a 3-level threat. And Barry doesn't change that. Joseph Pinion does a little bit because he can stretch a defense and help you out when teams are going zone and nothing seems to be working. And we've seen that. Barry doesn't. That's not a quality that Barry brings. So it's not a knock on Barry. It's just that what he brings as a player is very similar to guys that are just ahead of the pecking order. And we know Musselman's not expanding his rotations to include everybody. He's just not going to do that. What's interesting this year is he hasn't had a definitive shift in his rotation after those struggles in SEC play like he did 2 prior years. And I think that the biggest part of that is what I just said. With Nick and Trevin out, you don't have a lot of versatility to turn to. Pinion's the one guy that brings something different than what most of the guys you're running with have, and that's quick release, ability to stretch the defense, gravity. But he's defensively not there relative to other guys. And now that Arkansas is having a little bit of 3-point shooting success right now, we're seeing less opinion. But it doesn't mean that we won't see him again. And I do think rounding back to answering that question, that we will. I think he'll help Arkansas again somewhere, more than once probably. I think Graham's going to continue to get opportunities. He did tonight. He did some good things against Baylor, some other things that I thought he left on the table offensively and at the free throw line. Obviously, tonight I thought, he again at times he gets a little fragile, but he's also more dynamic offensively than any of Arkansas's bigs are, because he can, when you really think about the Mitchell twins and even Kamani, who we haven't even talked about, he didn't play tonight. Kamani's always a guy that be another guy that can come in and help, and will at some point again. But the Mitchell twins they're not really offensive guys. They'll give you some putbacks and some stuff around the rim off rolls, and good creativity from Anthony Black or Ricky Council or Devo. But Graham gives you a little more versatility. He's not going to stretch the floor, but he expands to 10, 12 feet, little push shots. He can turn over his shoulder, left or right, and get a shot off. He's got a great spin move. So you can even work him mid post or even high post, elbow horns, free throw line extended. He can, go left or right and then spin the other way. He's not bad with his crab dribble either, backing guys down. It's just he just needs more consistency at both ends. He has the intangibles to be a major factor. That might have been about Graham, the thing is with Musselman, you've got to be locked into assignments and expectations. And though we see this team struggle with turnovers and guys that are in the rotation making mistakes, I think sometimes we take for granted all that they do, that they're consistently doing to keep them on the floor. I mean, Devo Davis, we talk about his turnovers. His three-point shooting's gone up. We know he's going to facilitate and set guys up. We continue to see it. But defensively, even though I thought tonight he struggled at times, he's still outstanding defensively relative to the pack and other teams and what they've got. He's one of the best defenders out there. So when Graham checks one or two boxes, oftentimes there's three or four that he's not, or maybe not even close. And so it seems like I've seen a lot of stuff on social media over at Hogville that he's getting picked on more than other. How's Trevin's ACL? Well, he's on the bench. He's recovering from surgery. What I'm hearing is that he's on pace for next year. Now we'll see what decisions he makes and what, this is a different world we live in terms of, that we know that the NBA drafts off of potential and not about your full readiness. It's just that's not how the league works anymore. Hasn't worked that way in a long time. When people say someone isn't ready, that has nothing to do with why they might get drafted. In fact, the scouts I talked to in the NBA, and I talked to multiple, one of the consensus I always hear is teams they love the mystery of the draft. They love so I guess it's kind of like going to the racetrack or to Vegas. There's some excitement with the unknown, and maybe I crap out, maybe I don't. And as important as it, there's a lot of money on the line, and these guys' jobs are on the line. There's a huge part of that in there. So I'm not saying that Trevor Brazil's ready for the NBA, but he's a guy that I see as a future first-round pick based on what he brings to the floor. And so we'll see how, the younger the better for that league. So we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to say that's what he's going to do, but my understanding is his progress. He'll be ready to go next year, wherever that is. And if you're a Razorback fan, obviously you'd like to see him come back. We saw him on the bench tonight. So he's obviously healthy enough to be out there with his team. Nick Smith Jr. is on the bench as well. You look at those two guys sitting over there. For a Hog fan, it's got to hurt. I'm telling you, with those guys healthy, this is a top 3 or 4. We're not talking about right now. If those guys are healthy, I know, what's the point? But I'm going to say it. We're talking maybe 3 losses to this point, maybe 3 losses total on the season. That's it. With Nick in the lineup, I think maybe it's only 4. So they're at 7. And so that's just the reality of it. This is still, to me, looks like a tournament team as it is. They got a lot of work to do. Really, now we're talking about finding ways to win on the road and cracking that code, man. Picking up first road win and then picking up some more and taking care of home base. You do that, and you're Arkansas, you're going to pick up, Arkansas's behind in the quad game on the quad ones, 1-5 right now. You just got to hope Oklahoma finds its way back in the top 50. That becomes another quad one. Missouri, it may be an uphill climb, but if Missouri gets to top 30 net, you get one. But you got to now go win them too. You can't just hope for that. You got to go find one or two of those and start picking up some road wins. You don't have to win the rest of your road games. You just got to take care of home court and then pick up probably two or three road wins to feel good going into SEC tournament. And the other thing I think with Arkansas is it's always started on defense. We can talk about everything, turnovers, free throws, all of it. Every turnaround has started with them becoming consistently better on defense and understanding more and more who they are. Now, part of that's closing out good defensive possessions without fouling. That's something they still deal with. But overall, they've gotten really stingy again on defense. What they did at Baylor, I just don't take that for granted at all. I know they lost, but holding that team down like they did was something to watch. And I thought tonight, even though A&M's not a great offensive team, I thought Arkansas, you give that the other team shoots 20 more field goals mostly because of their offensive rebounds, but they're only +4 on you at second chance points. So that means you defended well before they rebounded, then you defended well again after they got the offensive rebound. And again, the foul game and free throw game worked itself out for once for the Hogs. And I think that's, again, I'm not going to beat that to death, but I do think out of everything else that's been their downfall, it's been those disparities. So it hasn't been as bad as, they always say you are what your record says you are. To some degree, that's true. But I think in Arkansas's case, they've actually been the better team in a couple of games they've lost and had leads, second half leads to help back that up. In other words, they weren't always down by double digits and fighting and clawing and trying to get back in it. They actually had leads, and in some cases, double-digit leads. And so, they're getting better. I think this team's getting better with what they have. And I do think of Nick Smith Jr., again, let's watch these next few games. I don't expect to see him back for South Carolina on the road. I don't know how soon it could be, potentially could be. But if they do get him back, I think Arkansas's done enough right now to keep their head not just above water, but to surge a little bit. And if they can build even more on that, getting him back could just be the rocket fuel they need. Is he going to step right onto the court and be the X factor? Probably not. He had an adjustment time coming back after missing 6 games against Troy, only 6 minutes. We'll see how many games it takes. But I do think